a lot of entrepreneurs start subscription businesses and they really struggle with churn and they struggle with retention. I think there's a better way to run a subscription business model. And today we're going to talk about it in the context of wine, but this could work for thousands of products. You ready to go, Rich?
Just raring.
You were skeptical about this pod because of the wine, weren't you? You were like, Doug, we've already done 3 on wine. Do not bring me any more of this shit.
Yeah, I was like saturated, but no. I'm trusting your creative mind that this could be pivoted into different, products, different sectors. But let's context it at wine, and then maybe challenge ourselves to come up with 2 or 3 that are outside of that space.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you the model in wine super fast, and that's clear. And then let's come up with 3 other products that this could work for. Right. So we are going to import wine from South Africa to the US because the wine in South Africa is phenomenal. It's very low cost, and you can get it landed in the US at a price where you can make a margin. And I've looked into this now. 20 cents for 4 gallons is your tax, and then there's local sales tax, and then there's obviously the shipping. But you're still able to make a big margin on wine. So one way of selling it. So how do you sell that wine? I started off with subscriptions, and I was like, I just don't love the subscription model. I just don't love acquiring a subscriber. It's quite a big ask for someone to sign up to a monthly subscription. You scared me off it with the business you invested in. So I thought, okay, why don't we just do e-com? All right, maybe we just why are we confusing it with subscription? Let's just do an e-com site. But then I was like, fuck, you're going to have a load of stock. That's just going to be a pain to run. So then I landed on set up a wine newsletter where you send a weekly newsletter and you just create really high quality content about wine in South Africa. Go to this vineyard, meet this person, give the history of this wine. Wine enthusiasts, why wouldn't you sign up for that newsletter? Great content, video, really good imagery, really interesting, unique content. Fine. And then you sell, once you've got your subscriber base, you then just sell to that subscriber base. You do releases of wine. So you're like, cool, in October, we've got the 2015 red vintage. Like, here is the cask or whatever you call it of wine. And like, is it called a cask? Whatever it's called. Barrel, fucking whatever. I don't know anything about wine.
Tub.
It's a bath. Here's your thing. This is going to produce 350 bottles of wine. We're going to get imported from here. People can see it, lands in the US, and then you just do a release, and you're like, cool, it's $100 a bottle, and you just build that release up with your subscriber base, and then you sell it that way. So it's e-com via a newsletter driven by high quality content.
Interesting. I quite like the pre-order nature of it, or the intent behind it. Because you can say, okay, we've got 100 bottles, let's pre-sell those, and you've pre-sold those, and then we get them delivered. All right. What you may find, you may want to, getting a little bit into the weeds of it a bit, you're not going to want people just to buy one. You've got to get them to buy 12 or 6 or something like that. There's got to be some bulk behind it for each purchase. Otherwise, the distribution is just going to be an absolute killer. You get smashed on logistical costs. Biggest problem I see here, Doug, is you've probably got to be super enthusiast of sommelier level to be able to do it. And I say this because I've worked in the business. There's so much that you and I don't know. We enjoy wine, right? We absolutely do, and we like it, and we think we can kind of trade at a certain level. But to be able to grab a market that's everyone from a hobbyist or someone who enjoys it, who feels good to be part of something that's quite interesting like that, all the way through to people who are members of 67 Pound Mile in London, that is a broad range, and you're going to have credibility. And I was watching, I was just perusing Gary V's videos. So Gary Vaynerchuk, he started off reviewing wine, right? That's what he did, Wine TV, back in 2006 or something, because his family had a wine business. And he knows his way around wine. He just absolutely does. And he comes across in a certain way with a certain personality like he has got, and it's successful, but he's got authority. And I think the biggest issue here is this can only be started in the wine space, or if it's about, I don't know, like olives or I don't know, whatever else that you could import or you could create a noise around. It's got to be from a position of authority. And I think that's the initial stumbling block.
So there's a couple of ways that you can create really good content. So one is your shit and you are telling people from your perspective. But a second way of doing it, where you can still create amazing content, is from a journalistic perspective, where you are going out and you're interviewing and meeting people in the space and asking those questions and kind of doing the discovery. So maybe you're not personally an expert, but you're able to create interesting content by kind of going into a market and asking the right questions. I think that could work. I think that could work here.
How's your French? How's your Italian?
Fortunately,
your Spanish, your Portuguese.
This is going to be South Africa. So I've got me English,
all right, okay.
And I'm going to bring someone that's got some Afrikaans.
Got me English.
Got some Afrikaans as well. But yeah, I think if you do it from that perspective and you're just featuring these places, I think that's a great way.
Well, the really nice thing about this, it could be an add-on. If there were a new world, let's just say, make it broader, so it's South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, or people like that, so maybe Southern America as well. But if there was a new world focused, like wine engagement site or whatever it was, YouTube channels, whatever you wanted to do, this could be an add-on, right? Now, if you got the audience and you were able to build that up, you could easily say, or work with the people that you've worked with and say, look, we are going to pre-sell the 2021 vintage that you've got left over. We're going to need to ship in 1,000 bottles or whatever it is. We can gauge the interest from our user base. So it starts with content. It starts with building up that authority, and then that is a plugin. So I think anybody who's got that kind of authority that is around a product or around something like that could add something like this on, and it wouldn't be that tricky to add on because you just got to do the deal with the vineyard and you've got to sort out your logistics, all the rest of it. But because you're not buying before you're selling, because you're pre-selling, it just it makes it a little bit of a lower risk kind of thing.
Yeah, and acquiring newsletter subscribers in this space, I don't think would be that difficult or that expensive. I think you could have a mailing list of 10, 20, 30,000 people fairly quickly. And they're just consumers. So that if they're interested in wine and they've got a few $100s to spend, they're going to be valuable. So, all right, well, your challenge to me is this just wine, Doug, as you kind of rolled your eyes at the start? It is, what other market could this work in? Because I think what you need a market for this to work where the content would be interesting and where you can go and where people would bother subscribing to a newsletter. Wine, I think yes, because there's just so much richness to the industry. Where else could this work?
And there's loads of depth in wine as well, isn't there? There's loads of great vineyards and great wine that's undiscovered in the export market.
Exactly.
Just so much.
Lends itself. Other alcohol?
So here's me shelling you for like, don't just bring wine. And now I'm going to sit here and scratch my head trying to figure as an alternative. I mean, other alcohol, tequila's huge. I've been to tequila in Mexico last year. That what we see in the UK and the US is scratching the surface of what's available. They had tequila shops with genuinely 10,000 bottles and probably 4,000 or 5,000 brands.
Does it all taste different, or is it all kind of derivative?
Oh, huge. I mean, even like we went to the Don Julio one. Was it Don Julio? God, I can't remember. No, it wasn't Don Julio. It was one of the most Jose Cuervo. Went to Jose Cuervo place. Jose Cuervo have like 15 different types, and we get a Special, which is the gold one, and then we get the clear one as well. So that's 2 of 15 just at Jose Cuervo. And then you're looking at agave, you're looking at all of the different blue agave, which is basically tequila that's not made in tequila, a bit like champagne and Cremant and all that kind of stuff, and the champagne stuff. So there is so much in tequila.
I love tequila.
Is like that. But the question is, not as many people drink tequila as they do wine. But owning a niche could be really, really interesting. Could just be super.
I'm sure the tequila US tequila market is not going to be trivial.
Probably large.
Probably pretty big. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's probably pretty big. So there's definitely that. The only other thing that I've seen is that every time you go to a country, right, you have niche spirits, don't you? So like you go to Sweden and you're drinking like crazy ash apps.
Mm-hmm.
You go down to what they have in Greece, ouzo. Italy, they have like a grappa type thing down south. You know, there's got to be uncovered gems across the world that are like that. The challenge is whether you'd want a whole bottle of the stuff or whether you'd want just a shot and then maybe throw it out the window.
Oh, there's loads of people that,
But yeah, I mean,
that are into. I love that. You just call the newsletter like Killer Spirits or Hardcore Spirits, and literally it features every week. We just do a feature from a different mad spirit around the world, and then you sell it off the back of it.
Yeah, and there are a lot. I mean, that localized around the culture of that country is really interesting. And every single country I've ever travelled to has always had, that aperitivo that's at the end of your dinner, or this is the local spirit.
So, all right,
maybe.
Go on, Rich.
No, that's it. I was just saying, yeah, maybe.
All right. So let's just get this juiced in 60 seconds. Easiest thing in the world to start a newsletter. Loads of sites to do that now. You can even just MailChimp's fine. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start acquiring subscribers. You can do paid if you've got some budget. Otherwise, you can just hack around on social media, finding these groups and just saying to people, "Cool, here's a newsletter." You can use Reddit and just create really nice content for all these subreddits. Start building that newsletter, and then once you're starting to build that subscriber base, you need to be able to create the content. So if it's South African wine, you either need to be there ideally, or you need to have somebody there that can go and create you that content. And then the final piece is the logistics. But we've taken away a lot of those logistics issues that you spoke about because we're pre-ordering. So I think the hardest bit here, got to create good content, always difficult. And then you've got to build a subscriber base. Even in wine, that's not totally straightforward, but you just need a little bit of hustle. And you've got to find where these people are hanging out and tell them about your product. And if the content's good, you're going to get subscribers.
And there's just, I love the fact that whether it's wine or not, this starts as a newsletter, but this could spin into any form of media. If you're taking a trip down to South Africa, that could be put on TikTok, could be put on YouTube, it could be put on Instagram. You could really build a brand around being that wine person.
Yeah, and then once you've got
there's loads of scope.
Once you've got your subscriber base, yes, you're selling wine and you maybe have an e-com store if you've got the cash flow. And then finally, you are selling those tours to those wine farms, and those are $15,000. So at the bottom of your funnel, you can really make some really good returns.
Okay. All right. Well, look, if you are watching this and you like Doug's obsession with wine, maybe you should ask him out. He loves a white wine spritzer. I'm sure he'll come and get drunk with you and talk to you about how you could build a wonderful newsletter. But yes, please do like and subscribe. And Doug, the next pod, no wine. It's banned. You're banned. You filthy lush. You wino.
I don't even
Thanks, Doug.
don't even like wine, but I know people do. I can hate it.
Revelation. Hate the muck.
It's all about the money.
Devil's
it's all about the bottom line.
Yeah. Indeed. All right. Well, thanks, Doug. I'll see you again soon for the next pod.